You're listening to That Vegan Couples podcast with Natasha and Luca.
Episode number 87, 2019 End of Year Review.
Welcome to That Vegan Couples podcast, where we explore, create, inspire, and laugh. And now your hosts, Natasha and Luca.
2019 is coming to an end, and as promised in our previous episode, we're going to review the year that was.
Now, this is a big undertaking because it was a big year.
Very big undertaking, very big year.
I'm kind of nervous. There's so much to cover. I actually never thought we'd see the end of 2019, to be honest, and I think I'm kind of glad that it's over.
Yeah, I know what you mean. On one hand, I always knew we'd see the end of the year because every other previous year's come to pass, and that's one thing's for sure. Time marches on and waits for no one, and all things come to pass. However, it was a huge year, and at the beginning of it, it seemed like it would never end.
It was like climbing Everest for us. It was a really big one.
Huge year, the biggest year of our working lives, for sure, bar none.
Yeah. Now, we actually did a review of our activism tours earlier this year, and so we'll link that episode in the notes under this episode, so people can go back and hear our review of, I guess, it was about 5 months of 2019.
Yeah, almost half the year.
Yes, but this episode is, of course, looking at 2019 more broadly. It's not just what we experienced, but it's, I guess, veganism in 2019,
exactly.
Everything that happened.
And now, because so much has happened this year, we're going to use the Plant-Based News Vegan 2019 film as a bit of a reference or a guide. And then we're going to add a lot more of our own thoughts and significant things that we thought needed to be mentioned, because there was only about 5 minutes of coverage on animal rights in the film, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. And I guess it was mostly centred on food and health and environment, which of course are very important things that need to be covered too. But when we were watching it, we realised that animal rights, activism, and the animals very much took a back seat in that film. That's how we felt about it anyway. And we think this is becoming more and more of a trend in this movement, and it's a little troubling. But I think we'll touch on it more later on in the show, and we'll talk more about the Plant-Based News film later on too.
So 2018 ended with high hopes. If we all remember that article in The Economist where correspondent John Parker called 2019 the year of the vegan.
I mean, that's big.
That was huge.
Wow. Can you see it now? The year of the vegan.
I can.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, we've referred to the article a number of times throughout the year.
Yes.
And I can see it written, actually. So, yes, I can see it. You know, he said 2019 will be the year veganism goes mainstream. That was a big claim.
It was a big claim. And I remember we were very pleased to read that article. And yet, at the same time, we said 2019 was going to be the year of the activist.
Yeah, and I think we made that comment because we felt like 2017 and 2018 had been quite strong for veganism.
Yeah.
And we felt like there was a need to step it up and that activism would really shine this year.
Yeah, I think the animals need it to be more than just the year of the vegan. They need activists because, as we always say, going vegan is not the most we can do, it's the least we can do. So that's, I guess, what we sort of said at the end of 2018, but the economists said something different.
Well, it kind of came to fruition, didn't it, in that it was the year of the activist in some respects, but not necessarily how we envisaged it, you know, and we're going to talk more about that later on.
Yeah, so back to the Economist article, Forbes actually went on to report on 2019, the year of the vegan.
Which helped push veganism further into the mainstream, thus helping economists' predictions come to fruition.
It sure did. And we love this because these predictions and articles, they weren't coming from vegans. They were coming from economists. And as you like to say, Luca,
money talks and bullshit walks.
Exactly. So the change is happening and it's being acknowledged because of money. This is a lucrative industry. And when you have economists making these calls, they're not doing it because they care about animals. They're not doing it because they see the great work that activists are doing. They are saying these things because they're following the money.
That's it. So was it the year of the vegan? Well, veganism did go mainstream. You know, a lot of things contributed to this. We're going to talk more about these things later on. Just briefly, animal rights activists made the mainstream media a lot this year.
They did. There was a lot more media coverage. I mean, I think animal rights activism, I should say, stepped up dramatically. And I think the media did cover that for sure, more than they have previously.
Definitely. The plant-based food technology industry boomed and cash flowed as a result.
Hence coming back to the economy.
Yeah, exactly. So I think all these things helped push veganism into the mainstream for discussion at the very least.
Yes. It doesn't mean that veganism is I don't know, like, would you say that it is mainstream or is just in the mainstream for discussion? Like, are we there yet? Kind of yes and no.
Yes and no.
Yeah. We're almost where we want it to be, but not quite there yet,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So a major push for vegans in the mainstream in 2019 was Greg's vegan sausage roll. This was big. I mean, it sounds so ridiculous, doesn't it? It's just a sausage roll, but it was like a turning point.
Well, a sausage roll is iconic in some countries, like in Australia and the UK. So, and it's obviously, no one would ever have thought of it to be made from anything other than animal products.
Yeah.
So to have a plant-based or vegan sausage roll from a company like Greg's, which is a large franchise in the UK, it really created waves.
It sure did. And I think, well, we both would agree here that Piers Morgan helped make those waves so fantastic. In fact, he made a tidal wave.
Yeah.
He was brilliant. You got to love and hate the guy at the same time, right?
Yeah. In fact, Greg's reported a 58% rise in profits.
That's significant.
Extremely significant.
Yes, good. So, I think this was, as silly as it sounds, this sausage roll really did help push veganism into the mainstream.
And this rise and expansion of the plant-based food industry was covered in great detail in the Plant-Based News 2019 vegan film.
Yes.
And of course, there is such a focus on it because, when you make plant-based eating more convenient and easier for everybody, that just pushes